Hi, NowThis. I am Senator Bernie Sanders. I am running for president, and I would love to take your questions. I think the appeal is that they are the future of our country, the future of the world, and establishment politics and establishment economics are not working for them, and they're not working for the American people, that we need some fundamental changes in the way we do business in this country, and that in fact what we need, and we've been doing pretty well with this through social media, is a political revolution in this country which says that enough is enough. A handful of billionaires cannot continue to control our economy, our political life, and the media. We've got to fight for a vibrant democracy and for an economy that works for all people and not just a handful of wealthy people. And in that context, in terms of young people, I think some of the issues that young people are concerned about, the issues of racial justice, the issue of climate change, the issue of the affordability of college and student debt, these are issues we've been talking a whole lot about. Let me just pick up on one point here. I regard it as basically absurd that when we live in a competitive global economy, we have hundreds of thousands of bright young people today who cannot afford to go to college. That is crazy and unfair, not only to the individuals, to the young people, but to the future of our economy. And that's why I've introduced legislation does two things. Number one, it says that all public colleges and universities in America must be tuition free, meaning that everybody, regardless of their income, who has the ability and the desire, can get a higher education. Number two, that we're going to deal with the issue of student debt, which is just crushing millions of people in this country. And we do that in two ways. Number one, we say that if you can refinance your home today at 2 or 3%, you should not be paying 8 or 10% interest rates on your student debt. Secondly, the federal government must get out of the business of profiteering, of making billions of dollars on student debt from working class families. Great question, and the answer is absolutely. But when I talk about a political revolution, what I talk about is involving millions of people in the political process and not just sitting down with right-wing Republicans who are beholden to the wealthy and the powerful. So you ask me about the issues of college affordability and making public colleges and universities tuition-free. I think the vast majority of the American people think that that's a great idea. I think the American people understand that we have got to do something bold about student debt and lowering interest rates. And I think the American people agree that the way you fund that program is through a tax on Wall Street speculation. You know, Wall Street has driven this country over the years into the worst economic downturn in the modern history of America. People agree with me that we bailed out Wall Street. Now it's Wall Street's time to start helping the middle class and working class of this country. How do you make this happen? You make it happen through a political revolution. In the last election in November, 80% of young people didn't vote. If large numbers of young people continue not to vote, not to participate in the political process, you're quite right. We will not succeed. If people do stand up and say, yes, this is crazy, college education should be affordable for all people, we will win it. So that's why I talk about not just electing Bernie Sanders. That's important, but that's only half the story. The other half is that millions of people have got to be involved in the process, standing up to the billionaires and the politicians that they own. It looks like a nation in which government works for all of our people and is not just beholden to corporate America and wealthy campaign contributors. It looks like an America in which we join the rest of the industrialized world and guarantee health care to all people as a right. We're the only major country that doesn't do that. It looks like an America in which we have overturned this disastrous Supreme Court decision on Citizens United, which is undermining American democracy and creating a very corrupt campaign finance system which allows the Koch brothers and other billionaires to literally buy elections. We will have overturned that. It will look like in America where we are leading the world, involving our young people and our engineers and our scientists. working with China and Russia and India and other countries in turning back and combating climate change by transforming our energy system into a system which is based on energy efficiency and such sustainable energies as wind, solar, geothermal, biomass, and other sustainable energies. It will look like an America in which we have made fundamental improvements in combating institutional racism and in reforming our very broken criminal justice system. Now, one of the issues I feel most passionately about is there is something very, very, very wrong when in this great country, the United States of America, we have more people in jail today than any other country on earth, including communist China, 3 times our size, which is an authoritarian country. So we need real reforms in criminal justice. Our goal should not be to put more and more people in jail. It should be figuring out ways that we keep people out of jail. And that requires major reforms in our criminal justice system. It requires accountability for police departments. Being a cop is not an easy job, but if that police officer breaks the law, he or she must be held accountable. It means moving to community policing rather than a situation where you have heavily militarized police departments which look like invading forces. It means getting corporations out of the running and building of jails. People should not be making profits by the incarceration of fellow Americans. It means taking a hard look at the war on drugs so that we do not flood our jails with nonviolent criminals. It means a path out of jail so that when people leave jail, they're going to have jobs and education, and mental health counseling, rather than getting right back into jail. So there's a lot to be talked about, but those are some of the issues that a Bernie Sanders America, I think, would look like. Well, first of all, we have to recognize the extent of the problem. Today in America, the top 1/10 of 1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. You got one family, the Walton family at Walmart, owning more wealth than the bottom 40% of the American people. We have more income and wealth inequality than any other major industrialized country on earth today, and it is worse now than it was since 1928. So the issue is that we have seen a proliferation of millionaires and billionaires. Much of the new income is going to the top 1% at the same time as you have the highest level of childhood poverty of any major country on earth, and you got millions of people working longer hours for low wages. That's the problem. It is unacceptable. What do? Well, for a start, and what this campaign is about, is telling the billionaire class they're not going to get it, they can't have it all anymore. When we have enormous unmet needs in this country, they are going to have to pay their fair share of taxes. That means they're not going to hide their profits in the Cayman Islands or Bermuda or other tax havens. It means that individual tax rates for the wealthiest people in this country are, in fact, going to go up. It also means that when we talk about income and wealth inequality, that working people are going to have to earn a living wage, not a starvation wage. And I've introduced legislation and working with others to raise the minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour. It means that we have pay equity for women workers. Women should not be making 78 cents on the dollar compared to men. It means that we end the international absurdity of the United States being the only major country on earth that does not guarantee paid family and medical leave for our working people so that women can stay home, among other things, when they have a baby. We're the only major country that doesn't have paid sick leave or guaranteed vacation time. That's got to end as well. So in other words, the effort is to demand that the wealthiest people and the largest corporations start paying their fair share of taxes, that we work on economic policies that create millions of jobs in this country. And under a Sanders administration, we're going to put at least $1 trillion in to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure and create some 13 million jobs, raising the minimum wage, pay equity. Those are the ways, I think, that we move toward a fair and more just American economy. What democratic socialism is about, in a nutshell, is having a government which reflects the interest of ordinary people, the middle class, working families, rather than is currently the case, the billionaire class. If you look at countries throughout Europe, especially in Scandinavia, look at countries like Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, etc. What do you find? You find that health care is a right of all of their people. And in fact, they do it in a lot more cost-effective way than we do it. There is no great debate about the cost of college education in those countries because by and large, college education is free. You have in all of those countries workers having significant amounts of vacation time. All of those countries have significant benefits in terms of pay, family, and medical leave. You have very strong child care systems in all of those countries. And by the way, in most of those countries, the voter turnout is a lot higher than it is in the United States, and they have pretty vigorous democracies. So what democratic socialism means to me is creating a government and policies that work for ordinary people rather than a government which we now have, which is dominated by big money, where our political system is dominated by large campaign donors who are working for the very wealthy. That's what democratic socialism means to me. Well, I would say they're right, and that's what we've got to do. And you're looking at a senator and a former congressman who has voted for instant checkoffs, instant checks on the purchasing of guns. So when people walk in to purchase a gun, we're going to do background checks on them, do it instantly and well, and make sure that if those people do not have, should not have a gun, if they are associated with crime or with serious mental illnesses, and we think they may do something harmful with that gun, they're not going to get that gun. You're looking at a senator and former congressman who voted against the distribution and manufacturing and sale of a number of assault-type weapons, weapons which have no other purpose but to kill people. You're looking at a senator and former congressman who voted against what we call the gun show loophole, which is a way that folks can get around the instant background check at gun shows. So I think I have a strong record on gun issues. And in fact, if my memory is correct, I have about a D- voting record from the NRA. But the point that I would like to make is we can continue to shout at each other about gun control and go nowhere in a hurry. I come from a state which has virtually no gun control. And we have, thankfully, one of the lower crime rates in America. We know in Vermont, though, that where guns here are associated with hunting or target shooting, we know that is not the case necessarily in Chicago or Los Angeles. So I think, and I think I'm in a good position to do this, is what we need is a serious conversation, not yelling at each other, which is going to get us nowhere in a hurry. I think the vast majority of the people in this country do believe that we should have strong instant background checks, that we should eliminate the gun show loophole, that we should ban. There's a debate about that one, but I believe we should ban weapons that are designed for no other reason other than killing people. So I think I can play a good role in bringing urban America and rural America together. But one thing I do know, it's not going to do anybody any good if we're serious about making sure that people who should not have guns do not have guns just to be yelling at each other. Well, I think I mentioned that, discussed that issue a few moments ago, and that is, I think the issue that they're talking about is enormously important. Nobody, not whether you're black, white, or Hispanic, or anybody else, thinks that the current situation where, whether it's Sandra Bland or Michael Brown or whoever, is getting killed while under arrest or in the course of arrest is acceptable. We know that over the years, many African Americans who are unarmed have been killed during arrest or in police custody. That is not acceptable. That has got to change. And as I said a moment ago, in my view, if a police officer breaks the law like any other public official, that police officer must be held accountable, and too often that does not occur today. And second of all, we need fundamental changes in our criminal justice system. We have more people in jail than any other country, and disproportionately, the number of those many of those people are black or Hispanic. So there's a lot to be done. But the goal is to make sure that when an African American walks the streets of this country, or drives in a car, he or she is treated like any other American, is not yanked out of a car, thrown to the ground, is not shot in the back. So we got a lot of work to do on that issue. Well, you know, it's a tricky question which we could discuss for many hours. But overall, you know, Barack Obama is a friend of mine. He's somebody who came here to Vermont to campaign for me in 2006. Somebody I have supported in his election and re-election efforts in 2008, 2012. And I think, number one, that history will judge Barack Obama a lot kinder than his contemporaries do. That's number one. Number two, it amazes me how quickly people forget where this country was when he came into office in 2009. We were looking at 800,000 people a month losing their jobs, $1.4 trillion deficit, and we were looking at not only the American, but the global economy and financial system on the verge of collapse. I think President Obama has a lot to be proud of. I think he has accomplished a whole lot. I think he has pulled us, compared to where we were when Bush was president, no question, very hard for anybody to say that we have not made real progress. Our troops, by and large, are not dying now in Iraq and Afghanistan. Many of them have come home. He is doing his best to make sure that we do not have combat troops once again in the Middle East, and I support that. He's working hard, trying to make sure that Iran does not get a nuclear weapon, but that we do it through a peaceful negotiation rather than another war. I support that. I disagree with the president on a number of issues, disagree with him on his Trans-Pacific Partnership. I disagree with him on extending Bush's tax breaks to the wealthy. I think in the beginning of his presidency, he was not as aware as he should have been. The degree to which the Republican Party had no intention ever of working with him. That what they wanted was obstructionism, 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 and to make him a president who accomplished very little. But I think, as I said, I think history will judge that while he has had his problems, all presidents have, he has done a lot of very good things for this country. And anybody who is not blindly partisan has to acknowledge that we are much better off today than we were when George W. Bush left office. I would love, well, I look forward to debating them both. I will be debating Hillary Clinton in, I think, a month and a half. But I very much look forward to debating Donald Trump. That will be a lot of fun.